Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Crane, and I am the Program Director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And you are listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are here to connect with you, network, discuss business, and all things creative entrepreneurship. We are streaming live out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio, a room designed for Chicago's small business community located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. We have important news. We have a new website, thanks to Anna Everling. It was created with our community of creative entrepreneurs in mind to serve as a resource, a place where you can find jobs, events, workshops, education, and mentorship. We are now introducing office hours, probably for the next couple months. So you can go to the website, click on the office hours, and chat with us for about 15 minutes about what you're working on and what are some of the things that you're looking for help with. So again, visit cceglobal.org and let us know what you think. Any feedback is very much appreciated. Well, today I'm really excited. The Global Industry Spotlight is on Fiona McEntee, JD and Managing Attorney of McEntee Law Group. Fiona, a U.S. immigration attorney, a former international student from Ireland, and a naturalized U.S. citizen. She is the founding and managing attorney of McEntee Law Group and is a frequent media commentator on immigration options for startups. Fiona is a member of the Media and Advocacy Committee for the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the bar association of over 15,000 immigration lawyers. She just wrote an eBook, U.S. Immigration Options for Startups, Accelerate Your American Dream, a comprehensive guide to the possible pathways to immigration for startup founders in the United States. Hello, Fiona.
Hi.
So I'm really excited to have you on the show. As we were talking, offline, that you're the first lawyer. And then you were like, well, let's talk about what kind of lawyer I am. So I think we should just start with that. Like, what type of lawyer are you, and what is the focus of McEntee?
Thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. So happy to be here from 2112, the Comcast studio, where we have proudly been here almost since the start. So as far as what type of lawyer am I, I am an immigration attorney, and actually a really proud immigration attorney. I have been practicing immigration law for my entire career, which has been over 15 years. So, and then I also worked in immigration when I was in law school as well. And I think, a lot of people didn't really know. Immigration was not so much of a topic of conversation as it has been in the past, maybe 6, 7, 8 years. Like when I started practicing immigration, it was not on the front page of every of the news as it is today. Mm-hmm. So that has certainly evolved, as has just the types of practice that that we're doing. But I think a lot more people are more aware of immigration lawyers and it as a distinct practice area within law.
And starting McEntee Law Group out of 2112, I think this was your first office?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'd had a home office. We'd had a Regis Center before, but this was our first official office.
So walk us through just the vision of, I want to start a law group. This is what we're going to focus on. And so let's do it.
Yeah. So I had worked in a pretty high volume immigration practice when I left law school. So I got amazing training. Someone had compared 1 year of practice there to 7 years in a normal practice because of the types of cases and the volume and the setup of the system. It was a very tech forward platform. Mm-hmm. So I had quite a broad experience after leaving that firm. I was there for 2 years and then decided that I did want to go out and set up on my own. So McEntee Law was me for for quite some time. Right. And then my brother Ray, who's a law partner now, came out and joined me, and then we gradually started growing, and now we're up to a team of 15 people. I will say that today it's amazing. The office is so full. It's kind of almost seems like the before times, pre-pandemic, when people are in office. And so, yeah, we have a team of amazing attorneys, case managers, marketing manager. We've lots of different people that are here working on our team, and we're pretty proud of them all. So
yeah, well, congratulations. I mean, the fact that you started with just you and then your brother and then grew into 15 is quite an accomplishment. what are some what is a typical like cases that you see from day to day? I know that immigration can mean lots of things, and we'll get into that. One of companies wanting to set up shop here in the U.S. or break into the U.S. market. How do you do that? But there's also just people that want to come and live here.
Yeah.
There's people that need visas for different types of work. Can you just kind of give us a run through of what your cases look like and have and like?
Yeah. So I think there's a few big kind of buckets of immigration.
Yeah.
So there's, employment-based immigration. So that has kind of historically been where my area of expertise has been. So business immigration, that looks like anything from a company hiring an international student post-graduation to startup immigration, where, we work with startups that are set up abroad and coming to expand into the US, or people who are here in a different visa type and want to start up their own thing. That's been a lot of what I have done. Then there's the family-based immigration. So your fiance is from overseas, you're getting married, and you need to navigate the immigration system, naturalization, so citizenship. There's also asylum,
Right,
and we have an
absolutely.
attorney from Russia originally, and she's been incredible at helping some of our Russian asylum applicants and people from the Ukraine that are fleeing in relation to those cases as well. So, and then there's also, I guess, a sub part of the employment-based system is sports and music immigration, and Ray runs that side of the practice. So we work with a lot of international bands, we work with a lot of international artists, professional sports teams here in the US. And that's kind of how we ended up in 2112 originally, was to do with that type of creative work, immigration that we were doing, which is definitely a niche practice within immigration.
Yeah. And is this US sports teams or artists wanting to travel or perform in other places, or are people from other countries wanting to come into the US?
Primarily like inbound into the US.
Okay.
So you think of professional sports teams that, your favorite sports team likely has numerous foreign born players, so assisting them with those. And then also international bands that come to tour, they all need visas, and so we help them with that type of application as well.
Yeah, I have definitely seen touring bands that are pretty popular or like mid-level career posting like, hey, we need help with our visas.
Yeah.
We're having issues, getting in here. Does anyone know anyone? That's kind of come up a lot. What do you see just from the music and sports standpoint are some of the big barriers in terms of or issues that you see when people are trying to enter into the US or travel?
Well, I would say with musicians in particular, the way the law is set up, it wants you to kind of predict what an itinerary is going to look like for up to maybe 3 years in advance if you're going for an O1, which is an extraordinary ability visa. Now, musicians as well as I do, predicting where you're going to be gigging in, 3 years time can be a difficult thing to do. But yeah, this is what the law requires. So there can be some hurdles there. And it does kind of seem like you're putting the cart before the horse when I tell our bands that you need to have the gig booked in order to get your visa filed. And they say, well, I don't really want to book a gig if I don't have my visa. And then we say, well, you will not get your visa unless you have clear plans about what you're going to do. And because we work in this area so often, we're able to really advise. Ray does a great job at like really advising bands on how to structure their petitions, their cases, to give them flexibility if possible, while also adhering to some of those requirements in the law. But you can kind of see how, it's very difficult for an immigration attorney to do like every single part of immigration. They're just so different. So you'll find that naturally people tend to have expertise or just experience in kind of a few of these distinct areas within immigration, and probably not the whole lot of immigration. But our team does everything. And we have lots of attorneys that do handle all the different practice areas. So
yeah, I definitely know of bands and people that use tourist visas to kind of come in and play, and they've been caught. And then to try to get a visa to come back in, it's almost impossible.
It is.
It's like, it's because it's such a niche thing. There's not necessarily a lot of resources out there. That that they're aware of or that we try to push. But it's like there was one instance in particular where someone tried to get in, they were stopped. Because they were on a tourist visa, and the people could see that they were performing, and
That's the thing. And I think with just social media and everybody posting literally every second of their day, there's no escaping. And also there's an obligation now. One of the questions in the visa form is that asks for your social media handles. And there are certain questions that you have to fill in when you're getting a visa. And so, you do run the risk of making yourself ineligible for a visa. And I just think, hindsight is a great thing, but you don't have to go through those experiences yourself. You can learn from other people's experiences. You can learn from the horror stories that we see. So if people are listening and contemplating taking risks with regards to their immigration status, it's just not something I recommend at all. And it's much better, to be proactive and to be your own best advocate, inform yourself, and then you make decisions that are going to work for you in the short and long term. Like, you don't know what opportunities are going to come down the line, and normally these risks are just not worth it.
Right.
So,
and shifting to startups. Okay, so I've started a company in England, or let's just say Ghana or somewhere, right? And I see the U.S. market as a really potential for this, new company. What are the steps to kind of get? It's the O1 visa that you would get to work here, or is it like tell us the steps of how do I set up shop, in the U.S. For my business?
So because of me getting asked this question all the time, not to be plugging our book is like on Amazon for like a few dollars. It's not like it was written to be a resource for people in this situation. And also I wrote it so that when I'm having consultations with people, it's like next level informed with that foundation. And basically the book is kind of an amalgamation of like the frequently asked questions that I see for people. So the first thing to do is to really honestly talk to an immigration attorney, because other countries, immigration can be an afterthought. Like if you're going to Ireland, the Irish government is very welcoming of immigration and new companies and investment, and the UK and Canada, it's just a different approach to immigration. Here in the US, we're stuck in a very old immigration system that's over 30 years old. And I write and speak about this a lot because Congress, if you're listening, it's time to modernize the immigration laws.
Right.
But because of the antiquated system and the hurdles that are there, you need to be thinking about immigration straight away. You also can potentially structure things in your home country to enable you to have access to other immigration options that you might not have if you didn't have a company incorporated there, for example. So you can kind of proactively put yourself in a better position to give yourself more options. So, every case is different. Everyone's options will be different. We always get but my friend did this, and your friend's situation could be completely different, because guess what? Your friend's Australian and there's an E3 visa for Australian citizens. Right. Or, there's something else about your friend's situation that is different to yours. So the options that would be available in this example would just depend on the entity abroad and how many employees there are and what the plan for expansion is in the US. Also, if the company's been funded by US venture capital funds or by angel investors, it can open up a relatively new option called International Entrepreneur Parole Program that is like a pretty brand new option. So that could really help. But it's like, you can see if you were raising funds for a startup abroad, if you were aware of these things, you may tailor your fundraising in a different way where you're actually trying to attract US-based sources of funding versus international VCs. So I am just a big fan of, like, I guess the theme is, get, your knowledge as early as you can, be your own best advocate, inform yourself. You can do your research on Google, but Google is not a immigration attorney, right? It's like the doctor, it's like not. The WebMDs of things, right? I'm sure doctors are like, oh my God, but you can still, actively seek out reliable sources of info as well. And I think the earlier you do things, the better, because you can just approach the future with an immigration kind of mindset and set yourself up, I think, better.
And what are some of the common misconceptions that companies have when they're trying to set up shop? Are there some kind of consistent themes that you see with companies that are trying to set up, or is it just different depending the company?
I think depending on where somebody's from, I think it's understandable to think that if you're trying to expand your business into the US, I'm bringing jobs, I'm setting, I'm
Right.
like creating jobs. Like it's
Right.
understandable to think that would be welcomed with open arms. That's an okay thing to assume. However, the reality, it's harder than people think.
Right.
It also takes longer than people think. So sometimes people have an idea of, oh, I just want to hire, I need to move to the US like next month. And I'm like, wow, you probably should have started
Right, a couple
few
months
months ago. So
Right.
I think people maybe underestimate how long things will take. Also, we've just come through the pandemic. I can say that because I think we actually
Are we done?
Are we done? But that had a devastating impact on immigration, right? We're in the business of global mobility, like people moving around the
Right.
world. And obviously the pandemic put a halt to a lot of that. So, we're still kind of dealing with some of the backlogs from that with the embassy appointments and
Right.
interviews and things like that. So I think you can never have too much time in immigration, let's say. You can be so as early as possible. One other misconception, I think, when people hear different visa types, sometimes they're put off by the names. Like the O1 is the extraordinary ability visa. Regularly we've had people who hear that and go, oh, they're humble and they're like self-deprecating, and it's just culturally, in some cultures it wouldn't be just kind of, not appropriate, but it's just not common to think. Like in Ireland, if people are going around thinking they're extraordinary, you'll be brought down, you'll have notions and people will take you down. And so people may not self-identify as extraordinary, let's say, but when you start to pick through the requirements, it could actually be a good fit for some people. So that's another misconception that I see a lot with the O1 extraordinary ability visa.
Yeah. That's great. So we'll put the website below to the feed so you can check out and check out the book. I mean, that sounds
Great.
like just it's a great way, for people that they have a ton of questions. It's like, well, check out this resource.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of focus on what you need.
Yeah.
I think you started out by saying I'm a proud immigration lawyer. And you have become kind of a media person for this subject. Can you talk about just your experience of being put into that role, and kind of what it meant to you, but also just that journey of, okay, now I'm like this media spokesperson, right? We had a presidential change that then we're all taking the L to the airport because people are not being allowed in. I mean, there was a big moment.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I always get a little emotional, to be honest, when I think about that, because I feel like that kind of changed the trajectory of my career to a certain extent after the election of our former president, Trump. Things dramatically changed for immigration lawyers, for immigrants in the US. And it started with the Muslim ban.
Right.
So Ray and myself, we were one of the first attorneys at O'Hare Airport,
Right.
and I became the ad hoc the media spokesperson for the group. I will say I had zero media training. The only thing I'd ever done, which I did it extremely reluctantly, was I was doing the Guinness Festival for the Irish American Heritage Centre, and they asked me to go on like ABC Saturday Morning News, and I was like standing there like as stiff as a poker, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, this is horrendous. So that was that was the extent of my media experience. And immigration lawyers are different. We're not like litigators where we're in court and we're like, some are if they're doing removal, deportation defense, but like it's just not really something that we're doing every day. And so that's how my media experience started. I was doing the interviews at O'Hare Airport, and then I got asked to do a live interview on MSNBC with like an earpiece in my ear. And I was doing pro bono representation for a mom and a baby that were stuck in secondary inspection because they'd just come back, and they were, the child was a US citizen. The mother was a green card holder, and the mom was originally from Iran, and she were one of the countries on the Muslim ban list. So, in that moment, when someone asks you, will you go live on MSNBC and like do this interview with an earpiece? And it's different to doing the side interviews where, I've
done the earpiece interviews on Fox. It's
scary. And so, but I just was like, how can I say no? Here's a woman and her child. They're depending on me. I'm the one with the potential microphone in my hand, not them.
Right.
They need me. And that's, I think, the change where I kind of realized I have this massive position of privilege and this voice that somehow I now have an even bigger spotlight. And, when I look back at the interview, it is just insane to see there's all these people running around. There's, I could barely hear what I was being asked. I had no idea how to do any sort of like interview. I still don't do, but like,
I'm sure
I've gotten better.
You've gotten better, right?
I've gotten a bit better with
absolutely.
practice. But,
Yeah.
Speaking of, like, it's just one of those things where you go, how can I say no? And I had just come back from Ireland with my kids over Christmas.
Right.
And I had walked in like that, Terminal 5.
Right.
And it was only a few weeks before. So I felt like had I been born in a different place, like I could be that mother and I could need somebody to be my voice. So I just felt like, so that's kind of how it all started. And I think that, we didn't realize how bad things were going to get under the prior administration, but they were just horrendous. Yeah.
And are you still, dealing with that today, of just the after effects of the administration and their decisions with immigration, with trying to bring families over, or do you feel like things have kind of normalized? Obviously they haven't normalized because you're saying that the immigration system is 30 years old and needs to be updated.
Right.
But there has been improvement in terms of, obviously the ban was lifted.
Yes.
So that's a good human thing to do.
Right.
But yeah.
I think there was irreparable damage done to some people, no doubt. There were families that were separated. There were people who got selected in the green card lottery that missed their chance forever.
Right.
We saw what's happening at the border with Title 42. So there were a lot of different things. And just to be clear, that this administration is far from perfect. They absolutely, need to take some serious improvements too. But there is a totally different approach to immigration under this administration. Like the prior administration took out really key words in the mission statement of the agency, talking about like just serving immigrants, and and they just totally like obliterated like immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have seen statements and policy changes that are supportive of immigration, that recognize the value. I think the big difference is the prior administration viewed immigrants as, like a drain, a curse, the othering of immigrants. This administration recognizes the value that immigrants bring to the US. So when you approach immigration from like those two different real fundamental like viewpoints, you can see how all the policies and decision making come from how different they would be. And again, I think the Biden administration can improve, but I know that at least they are thinking about immigration in the way that we should be thinking about it, which is like immigrants always bring way more than they take from any country, and that is true across the world.
Yeah. Do you feel I could talk to you about this for a long time.
I know. I know. Like, come on, yeah. Hope you're enjoying.
I guess my last question would be: do you feel like there's a country out there that has really been successful in terms of just their immigration policy, in startup growth, and in attracting companies to come, and the companies have seen economic growth within their countries?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah, there are. I recently wrote a piece for Crane's Chicago business. It was an op-ed that I co-wrote with an immigration lawyer from Canada and an immigration lawyer from the UK. And we essentially contrasted the immigration system here with both of those systems in regards to startup immigration.
Yeah.
And, and we can see how their systems have been constantly modernized and updated. Like, think about startups now and what they're doing. Do you think Congress was thinking about any of that like over 30 years ago when the laws were designed? No, they were not. And as a result, we're trying to often squeeze, square pegs into round holes, and just like it's just not set up for the current practices. But Canada has a startup visa that has been so popular. And I think last year in the article, we noted that it received 3 times the amount of applications in last year than it did in the previous years. And I know that startups that would be set up here in the US are going to Canada because of this modern immigration option. And it's not to say that we can't make things work here. Certainly with this startup parole that I mentioned that the Biden administration reintroduced, the Trump administration tried to nix that, but the Biden administration brought it back. So, but the thing is, Congress is the body that is tasked with creating laws in the US, and there has been complete inaction from Congress on immigration, and it's so long overdue.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I think for me, it's been really helpful to learn how different countries operate,
Yeah.
right? How the government supports entrepreneurship, even the music industry, even cultural industries, and just seeing different models of like, okay, well, how did you fund this? Well, actually, no, the government funds this. I know that Finland has a like almost a VC government arm that matches dollar for dollar for startups. So it's just a really great ecosystem to be working in, to be able to know that there's funding. And so I really appreciate you kind of giving us the lawyer approach and viewpoint of what's helpful for moving into different spaces, to kind of shift into just being an entrepreneur yourself and building out a team. Can you talk to me about what were some of the things that really helped you expand your business, grow your team, and build and start from one person to two to then now 15?
Yeah. I think so. I grew up in a house where my mom was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so I had that great example of that small business owner, which small businesses are the backbone of any economy. So my mom had hair salons, barber shops, and like nail salons, and like, different types of like small community like businesses. So I grew up seeing that. And I think with the firm, I think we did a lot of things right, more things right than we did wrong, but of course we've learned along the way. But I think we were doing things right without really knowing we were doing things right. And one example I give is that without really having solidified mission statement, core values, without having those written down, we were kind of inadvertently or unbeknownst to us including them in all our recruiting, where we were like, here's who we are. Here's who we think you might be. And we ended up really attracting people that were so aligned with our mission, even though it wasn't actually solidified. And so that's one of the things that really has enabled us to just have such an amazing team. We have some of the first hires that we've ever made nearly 6 years ago are still with us. We have just a real cohesive team. Our culture is, I think, one of the things that I'm most proud of, because
I mean, everyone I see that comes in and out is looking happy.
And you know what? That's important, because I say life is too short to hate your job.
Right.
I mean, that's true. Also, I came from a European culture. When I moved to the US, I was like, what? So you're telling me I have 10 days off for the year?
Right.
What? Like,
well, that works. That's healthy.
Yeah. Like that would even, I wouldn't barely get back to Ireland at that. And so I just thought that doesn't seem like, if I was to build something, that would be the way it would go.
Right.
So we've been able to really craft policies with that in mind. And we have a really, I think, competitive, like vacation thing. We have 4 paid weeks, per year, plus all additional holidays. Plus we close completely between Christmas and New Year's Day, and everybody gets paid time off. Like, that to me was one of the most important things, because it was reflective of the culture that I grew up in,
right,
where people get a rest and they get time with their families or by themselves or whatever they want. And I think we have to acknowledge that it's not easy to work in immigration. It's stressful. It's where a lot of us have just this deep sense of like empathy for our clients, and it can be a heavy burden. And I think that we need to make sure that we're prioritizing all sorts of wellness, including therapy. And we have access to therapy through this amazing startup from the UK called Spill. And we have all these kind of wellness benefits. And I just think that you can't really talk about immigration and a team without acknowledging that people need some time away to really rest. So
yeah, that's incredible. My wife works in for the Center for Health Equity, for the AMA, and it's like that emotional work is really intense. And to be able to, define boundaries of like, no, this is your time to rest. This is your time. It's that's incredible. So that's it, folks. You just have to, build a company that supports the workers. But I love the idea of sharing about the mission. And being like, we want people that believe in what we are doing. And obviously you have to be a good worker, but that being a first thing is really important.
I think when you hire for culture and you hire for like things that you're aligned with, I think that is a way to ensure that on the hard days that people are there to support each other. And it's like, I'm so proud of our team. It is like our number one, like our team and our clients, you know, and people care so much. They do great work. When you care, you do great work. And when you're there to support your teammates, you know, the end product is great work too. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of entrepreneurs. I had Melissa Villanueva last week. I had Faith. I mean, and I just, the consistent piece is building just a great team.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that for any entrepreneur out there, you know, who's starting a business, you know, defining, like you said, the mission first, and then being able to build people around who believe in that will help the business grow.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions to end the podcast. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, this is great.
You know, I guess I'm thinking, because I was like, well, you know, how do you deal with fear or doubt? And I was thinking about this moment of you being put on, you know, the spotlight in terms of speaking for immigrants.
Yeah.
At O'Hare. What are some of the things that you you know, do to find courage, or is it just natural for you, or you know what?
I guess by my reaction, it's not natural. I don't know that it's natural for anybody, because like thinking about it, fear and doubt, like they're really scary feelings. And I think it's kind of recognizing position of privilege for me and pushing beyond, even though it's scary as hell. Yeah, can I say that word? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. I do. I'm a mom of 2 kids.
Right.
There's certain, So, you know, so it's pushing beyond that for a greater good, right? But it's also afterwards, like decompressing, surrounding yourself with people who understand what that feels like. Maybe not everybody was in that exact situation that I was in, but we were there together. It's you know, immigration lawyers, you will not, I challenge anybody to find a more collaborative, supportive group of people. Our bar association, AILA, you know, I have so many amazing friends, and you know, especially during the prior administration, just being able to just almost like look at somebody and go, and they know what that means, you know, to support community, like community solidarity, and just like safe spaces, and also therapy, you know, all essentials to, you know, doing hard work, you know.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I mean, just all the stories you must hear and the heartbreak that you know, witness. I can imagine just that's such an important aspect. You know, I think with any kind of entrepreneur, any person that is, you know, building their own business, community is just such an important aspect of surrounding yourself with people that think like you, people that support you and care about you, even beyond, you know, financial gain. And that there's really like a common cause. What is something that, you know, that you won't compromise on in your career?
I think I've always been someone that has a lot of integrity. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you have to be true to yourself. We have to kind of do what feels right, and to work with people that are respectful and that are, you know, that are kind of mission aligned. Like, I won't accept a client if they're rude to our staff. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If someone is rude to me or to our team, that's not somebody that we want to work with.
Right.
You know, we're partners with our clients, we're collaborating, and it doesn't happen often.
Right.
But it's important that
but sometimes you have to shut it down.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes even mid consultation, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Right. Of course.
But it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have this little like voice in your head, or wherever the voice is, sometimes it's a pit in your stomach. You get these physical feelings for a reason. And I know we may talk about books, but Malcolm Gladwell's Blink book talks about instinct, and kind of it's based on experience. And so I will trust my instinct because it is based on my experience, and I have always done what I believe to be the right thing for me and for our team, and I will always continue to do that.
Yeah, listening to learn to the, you know, listening or learning to listen to that instinct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think as we have more experience in life, we're able to be like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like pretty
Why
quickly.
am I feeling
right.
sick? Okay.
Like talking to somebody and being like, I don't really trust this person.
Yeah.
You know, or like they're talking a lot. I think that they don't have anything, you know? you start to kind of learn that. I feel like when you're younger, you don't really,
Yeah.
it's a little harder to navigate.
Yeah, because I think you doubt yourself. And
yeah,
I think as you
right.
get older, you know, embracing the 40s and all that, you just are like,
Embracing
this
the
is
40s.
me. And, you
Right.
know, and I have this feeling for a reason, and you trust yourself more, I
Yeah.
think. So yeah.
So moving to books, nice transition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said Malcolm Gladwell's Blink.
Hmm.
Is that you also said Outlier too?
Yeah.
But yeah, what would be your book suggestions? For people that have helped you.
So I do love Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. I think that it's interesting to think about you know, success in that way, in terms of like opportunity, but also putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that it that kind of recognizes, though, being in the right place at the right time, you know, as some of those examples in those books are, but also there is no substitute for the hard work as well. But I find that, like, I'm trying to read, I read all day long for work.
Yeah.
So there was a time where I was like, I just can't read anymore. But now I'm really starting to read more, and so I'm trying to like consume as many business books. I read a lot. I'm starting to learn more about venture capital in relation to like immigration and things like that. So learning more about those types of books as well. So I'm trying to incorporate my reading and my new morning routine. Oh, I'll plug this book.
Plug it.
Called Miracle Morning. Is it The Miracle Morning? And it's basically about creating a morning routine where you're like excited to jump up out of bed at 4 a.m. and like so I'm on that kind of buzz right now.
Okay.
Where I'm trying to get up early, do some meditation, affirmations, all the things that, you know,
Right.
we think we should be doing,
Yeah.
and then reading as well. But that book has been really
And
great.
is your family sleeping when you?
Oh yeah, they're sleeping
Yeah.
because you know, when the kids wake up and are running
I know.
around and you're like,
That's it.
it's like you
You're
never
on.
get any time. And
Yeah.
so I think I've had a bit of a mindset shift, because before I was thinking, I'll get up early and I'll just go in and work early. No, the book teaches you, like, this is such a sacred time for you to do your meditate. Like, if you start your day out well in that sense, you'll just be so much more grounded throughout the day, and it kind of gives you better coping skills.
Right.
So that's something that I found. Now I would say I'm still a rookie at this, you know, but it's been really helpful to me already, and I'm hoping that it's something I'm going to continue to incorporate. And you can also get your exercise in the morning as well, which is otherwise it's not happening. So
yeah, I think having that time, I try to get up early before my family as well, and have this just like that quiet time, or and it absolutely helps the day, set the tone for the day.
Totally.
I don't always do it.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think it's important, to just be able to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And the meditation piece and the exercise piece.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I've been there's been a lot of videos on Kobe Bryant about how he, basically talks about getting up at 4 and practicing, and then eating breakfast, and how because he did that for years and years and years, he got so ahead of all the other players, because they didn't start practicing until 10 or whatever, but he was just, his regimen just helped him kind of improve and learn more. And it was just interesting thinking about that kind of mentality. They call the Mamba mentality.
That's like combining both of those books, though, in a way. The Outliers with that the 10,000 hours, and then the routine. And so I think that's really, you're giving yourself the best shot, but if you can also take that time for yourself, it's important, because you're definitely not going to get it later on in the day. I just find I have more patience even with my kids and all that kind of stuff if I've given myself that bit of like time in the morning. So yeah.
Well, Fiona, it's really been great to talk with you. I could spend all day talking about
Same.
family and immigration
I know.
and all these things, but I know you're a very busy person. It's been great having you here, on the Global Industry Spotlight. Check out what Fiona McEntee and McEntee Law Group is doing. If you have questions about immigration, they are obviously the experts in a lot of different types of fields. So we'll put that website below so you can check out what they're doing. Again, my name is Daniel Crane. I'm the program director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship, and this was another episode of Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series focused on providing resources and insight for the creative entrepreneur. We are streaming out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio located at 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. Thank you to Comcast Business and Shore for providing the tools necessary to make our programming possible. Visit our new website, cceglobal.org, to register for free workshops and check out all the things that we are building currently. Find us on Instagram and Facebook. Find us on LinkedIn, and tune in next week where we'll be talking with the Executive Director of Civil, Nick Hyman, about what he is doing for venues in Chicago. Again, thank you for your time. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and we will speak with you soon. Take care.